नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। तो दोस्तों आज हम 1971 के जंग में बांग्लादेश लिबरेशन वॉर का एक हीरो के साथ बात करने वाले हैं एंड ही हैज बीन अ वेरी सीनियर ऑफिसर इन द इंडियन आर्म्ड फोर्सेस एज वेल. Starting his career in the Armored Corps in 1971, he served as Major and the Alpha Squadron commander of 45 Cavalry Regiment, who was attached to the 4 Mountain Division of the Indian Army, जो बांग्लादेश के आज़ादी के जंग में took part in the liberations of various towns and cities and eventually taking the surrender of the Pakistani armed forces. Welcoming Major General PK Batra to our program today. In the first part of this podcast video, we will be getting to know about his experiences being commissioned in the Armored Corps and taking part in the 1965 war as well. Yes, he has been a veteran of the 1965 war and he will be talking about the Armored Corps development and the shifts of the equipment that came in the Indian Armored Corps at that time, including some of his experiences as well. So let's welcome Major General PK Batra to our program today.
One more thing, sir. I've seen your very older picture with where your mustache was still a bit black and you had the black beret, I guess. Smiling picture. Yeah, that only one picture I have of you, sir. It's still like resembling a lot of your face, a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you the first question, sir. As an Armored Corps officer and who has served in the Indian Army for such a long time, what was your family background and your motivation to join the armed forces, sir? Like, what reason and how did you actually join the Armored Corps? After, like how was the entire journey?
Okay. I'll be very brief and to the point. Actually, nobody from our family had joined the Army, Navy or the Air Force.
Okay.
We had migrated from Pakistan in 1947
Achha.
and finally, after roaming around for some time, finally came to settle down in Delhi.
Okay.
I was lucky to get admission in Ramjas School, where I studied, and there I started playing a bit of games also, like, cricket, football and things like that. I was weak, rather very weak in studies. Those days, people thought that anybody who's not good in studies should join the army.
Mm-hmm.
So my father also thought on those lines, and he said, look, you better do something, study a little bit so that you can join the army. So after a little bit of motivation and things like that, I had a go at NDA.
Okay.
And I don't exactly remember how many people had appeared, but it was around about 80 or 1,000 people on all India basis who had appeared. And I think finally just about 200 got selected. And I was one of those who got selected finally, which surprised my father the most.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was the startup point. And thereafter, when I joined the NDA, then of course I got motivated and I got a good chance to learn and improve with others. You learn a lot from your colleagues also, who come from various parts of the country. You get to know them, get to know their culture, get to know their habits and everything. And that is how your vision also, widens and broadens. That is how it started in NDA. In NDA also, frankly, I'll be very frank with you, I was just about okay and got through the exams and whatever tests that were held there. And finally joined the IMA after passing out from NDA 3 years training. In IMA is the first time when you really get to know more about the Indian Army and what the Army is all about. Because there more time is spent on tactics, what the Indian soldiers should be knowing, and toughening up and other training to, make you think quicker and do everything right. So that was a wonderful training that we got at IMA. And I was playing a good game of cricket, and when we were asked to give a choice for joining the armed forces. I mean, the units we wanted. I was lucky that somebody very senior from the Armored Corps was watching us play cricket one day at Delhi, and he said, "Hey, come here, youngster. You join Armored Corps." So
Okay.
I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I don't know much about Armored Corps." He says, "You leave that to me." And there it is. That's how. And that in that match, luckily I played well, scored 50, 60 runs, and picked up about 6, 7 wickets. And that is how I got the Armored Corps. Otherwise, in those days, in Armored Corps, people from the top were taken into the Armored Corps. It was considered a very elite kind of corps. But I was lucky to have just got it. That's about because of my games and things like that.
So,
So that is how I joined the Armored Corps.
mhm,
And after having joined, I found it to be a very challenging kind of a profession,
mhm,
the army. Previously, one always used to think that army is nothing but, toughen yourself by eating a lot and exercising a lot.
right.
But then suddenly you realize there's so much to study. And the competition being what it is, unless you did all your promotion examinations and did well, you really had no future. So that way God has been kind. I managed to keep pace with other brilliant chaps coming into the Armored Corps. And that's what life is all about.
So we'll proceed to the next question, sir. Um, what was your initial task and duties in the Armored Corps as a young officer? I think at your time, people used to get commissioned as a second lieutenant, right, sir? So, what kind of duty did you have to like perform as a very young officer, sir?
All right.
And
You see,
what
when I
was the
joined,
unit
when I,
where you got commissioned, the Armored Corps unit?
yes. When I joined the Armored Corps, basically, though officers were living in the officers' mess and other places,
Okay.
one stayed there, but you spend most of your time with the troops.
Mm-hmm.
I was given charge of a tank, that is, the keys of the tank were given to me.
Okay.
So every morning before the maintenance parade, you came, you opened up your tank, and you cleaned it along with the other crew members of the tank. And that is how we got to be very close with each other, though the boys who gave you a lot of respect as an officer,
Right.
but they also realize that you are in the process of learning and you want to be part of them. I spend most of my time basically, as the old saying goes, that a family that plays, prays, trains together, stays together. I spend most of my time with them, learning about them, playing games with them, attending all the parades, going to the langar and having khana there only with these boys, sit down there and have a little chat. I came from a regiment which had mixed troops, so you got to know a lot of people, their culture, their customs, their traditions, and you became quite friendly.
And which unit did you get commissioned?
Yeah, I got commissioned in 62 Cavalry, a very fine regiment,
Okay.
very fine set of officers and men there. And one learned a great deal from them. They had Sikhs, Dogras, and Jats. So three different type of people who had very high traditions in the army. All these three. So
Right.
one learned a lot from them, and from our seniors also one learned a lot, and so did from one's colleagues also. So, so luckily the foundation was reasonably strong. Now to build on that depended on me, how I sort of go around it. It's only after, I think after the 65 war, that one got to know that one has to be very, very sound in profession. You saw how people get killed if they're not careful, or how good your training is to take on an enemy. And that is how then one started reading a lot about various wars fought in the Second World War, things like that. And that also improved my, little bit of knowledge about the army also. And you learned a great deal. You learned a great deal about the commanders, how they behaved under pressure, and how, when things are going wrong, how did they behave, how did they, command their troops and things like that. So that is how slowly the process of learning started from that time also. And then, one had to do a staff college and various other promotion examinations. Luckily, one managed to get through them, and that's how it is. It's
Could you talk a
basically,
bit about the first tank that you commanded, sir? Like, I
sorry,
know it was not a direct PT-76. It must have been some other tank that you commanded as a second lieutenant, sir. Could you talk
yeah,
a
in
bit
those
about
days
the
we,
equipments?
we had 62 cavalry had Sherman tanks, American tanks. So basically, the training started on that tank. Again, a very fine tank also. And luckily, in the beginning, I had a very fine set of instructors, so JCOs, NCOs, who really, bullied you that if you didn't do your work well, they wouldn't take nonsense from you. So you did everything as they wanted you to do and learn a lot. That's how it is. And that's how one became very friendly with them, also started liking them and started playing games and everything and respecting them also. You see, you respect your instructors a great deal. And that is how it was. And then just before the 65 war, or during that period, only 45 cavalry was raised. And then I was posted to 45 cavalry.
Okay.
Managed to,
So you were moved during the raising time, or were you involved in the raising of the 45 cav, sir?
it was basically during the raising time because we were raised in May. The war, if you recall, started in September. So we were still in the stage of, settling down in a new place in Delhi, for example. Delhi Kent, we were,
This is in
and then you had multifarious jobs to do because you see, when the war started, people who were to come from various regiments did not want to leave their regiment during war and come to a new raising. So they managed to stay back there. Some of them who came managed to get back to their old regiments. So some of us who stayed back, who were young, we were just what 4 5 years of service. We were given quite a few jobs. For example, I was given the technical officer's job. Now my job at that point of time, I was given a Royal Enfield motorcycle with our DR's drive. So as a captain, I used to be going to Delhi Kent where we were raised, to the ordnance depot, draw tanks. We were given the task of Armored Delivery Regiment. This was a new kind of a thing which was may have been tried out in Second World War, but was being tried out in our country for the first time. So we did the Armored Delivery Regiment. So I was given a motorcycle. My job was as a technical officer to go and draw the tank from the ordnance depot, bring them to the workshop in Delhi Kent, also get them properly inspected, checked, everything, get them ready for war, and then take them to Delhi Kent station, put them on the MDFUs and send them to wherever they were required to go with the crews. And I used to be, driving the motorcycle all over with my captain's rag. And the local people started calling me Captain DR, because I was doing a DR's motorcycle, driving a DR's motorcycle. So that itself was good fun. And then, that is how it started. Then after a little while, I was posted to the squadron which was located near Jammu, on the Pathankot Jammu road as an armored delivery squadron. It all, it was dependent on the formation you were giving, equipment. So whatever the equipment that formation had was given by us to them in the from the armored delivery squadrons that we have set, established 2 of them. We used to draw the same equipment which was required by them. Let us say 2 or 3 Shermans were knocked off
Okay.
by the enemy. So you drew three tanks from Delhi Kent, got them inspected and brought them and delivered it to the regiment which had lost 3 of 4 tanks. That is how this process, and it worked very well. There was no doubt about that. It worked very well, and that was another learning that we had during that period of time.
Another question
And then when we got,
I had That was your own personal transition from the Sherman tank to the PT-76 tank, sir. Could you talk a bit about that?
All right. It was amazing. For example, these Shermans or Centurions and bigger tanks, which are heavier tanks, when we use them basically they were in Punjab and adjoining areas of the Rajasthan and all this. But since my squadron, my regiment was that time posted in Punjab, when we used to go for training, the terrain being what it is, so many times they used to get bogged. Because the water table was a little high and the tanks would get bogged there. But when we got to PT-76, it was an eye-opener. It was an amphibious tank. You put it in water and you drove it like a boat. You were going all over the place. But it had, very challenging kind of a tank also, because after all, when you're crossing a water obstacle, you're very vulnerable. There is, unless when you're in the open terrain and hard ground. So in water, but it was very nice in the sense, gave you a lot of confidence, and that is how it started sort of getting on to you. You started liking this tank also. It was really not a tank versus tank kind of a tank designed to take on a tank battle. It was more so to give very close fire support to the infantry. However, we had quite a few challenges in 71 war, and this tank did exceedingly well there also, even in tank versus tank battle. For example, in 71, we had a major tank battle with the Pakistanis on the Sheffies, in which our C Squadron, Charlie Squadron, that time commanded by Major Narang and Captain Mehta was his 2IC. This battle at Garipur, where these guys shot out the complete squadron of Sheffies or Pakistanis by a squadron of tanks of ours, PT-76. And about this tank battle, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India at that time, Honorable Prime Minister, she made a mention of this in the Parliament, that this kind of a battle has never taken place, where a squadron of tanks has shot another tank squadron. And the Pakis had better tank, because they had Sheffield was a much better tank than PT-76. So slowly then the confidence came in the boys. You see, once you shoot one tank, then you want to shoot another one like a partridge. You want to let me get another one also.
Sir, coming to 65 war,
sorry.
You were still a captain, I guess, and
yes, that's right.
You were still in you were a part of 45 Cavalry at that time, right, sir?
At that point of time when I joined 45 Cavalry and the 71 war started, I had become a major.
No,
because I had about
65, sir. In 65.
65 I was a captain.
Captain. So, sir, in 65 war, you were in which unit, sir, or which squadron?
In 65 war, as I told you, we had joined 45 Cavalry. 45 Cavalry on raising was given the task of Armored Delivery Regiment. That is what I told you, that is our job was. That is.
So
because
till started, sir.
I was a captain.
What was your experiences in the war, sir? Like, as far as I know, PT-76 tanks didn't do very well in 65 war. So, what was your experiences regarding this, sir?
I'll tell you what happened. You see, only one squadron of PT-76 was given to 7th Light Cavalry. Okay. 7th Cavalry is a very, very fine regiment. And they, for the first time, had entered the battle on PT-76.
Okay.
Right? So they didn't know much about PT-76 and how it will, fare in a tank versus tank battle. Since it had very light armor, being an amphibious tank, it had to be light, right? Otherwise it won't float. So quite a few tanks were knocked off, and I lost a very dear friend and a coastmate of mine in this battle, 7th Cavalry Jaswal. and one felt bad. That is, then this tank was, withdrawn. They said it is not worth putting it against patterns, etc., which the Pakis had. So they did take part in the 65 war. So you can say that in the Indian Army, their initiation was done in 65. Subsequently, in 71 war, they excelled and did very well.
Right.
We were in a delivery regiment squadron. So we were not deployed anywhere to fight a war. We were only giving support and giving the tanks to the forward troops which were fighting the war. That is the problem.
Got it.
Because regiment at 60, the new regiment 45 cavalry had not been fully raised. It was still under raising. There were a lot of problems that we were facing at Delhi, and whatever material that was coming, preference was given to the troops that were fighting the war. We couldn't even get proper B vehicles like 1 tons or 3 tons or anything, because whatever was required was being sent up to the fighting troops, and rightly so. That is what is the fighting troops' need was that time. So therefore, we, as a cohesive regiment, we managed that only after the war was over, sometimes in, I should say, 66, February, March or so. That is the first time after we moved from Delhi camp to Babina, where we did our initial training, etc.
In the part 2 of our video podcast with Major General PK Batra, we will be focusing mostly and solely on the 1971 war operations in Bangladesh. If you have liked this video, please like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.